Hi everybody, it's Jack Watson. I'm a full-time UI UX designer and also an illustrator, an animator, and of course a connoisseur of donuts. I'll be your host for today's Illustrator Foundations Challenge. Today we are going to go over a frequently asked about topic, creating files for print and exporting. To get started, check below me and this video in the description for links to your starter file with resources today, as well as links to other challenges and our Discord creative communities. So opening up our file, there are a lot of things going on already. We have this file set up to create a standard A4 postcard that is 4 by 6 inches. We're working in the CMYK color space as indicated up here on our tab for our project. So it does have a different range than RGB, so you might not be able to use certain bright or neon colors. There are two artboards today with blue lines. These blue lines are guides. They do not export out with your file. They are just for your reference to line things up when you are working. So I've got a front and a back here for you today for our postcard. We've also got a red line on the outside of our artboard. Our artboard is this white area in here, and this red line is the bleed on our file. We are working with a 1/8 inch bleed. If you want to adjust your bleed, you can go up to Document Setup and find the bleed settings in here. If you bring it back down to 0, it will just remove that bleed for you. And if you bring it back up higher, it's going to increase in 1/8 inch increments. If you are working in inches for your units, you can switch to centimeters if you'd like as well. So we'll hit OK. Alright, and the bleed is here indicating the bleed of our document. Our artboard is where our file is going to get trimmed. So anything that you want to have extend and print edge to edge, so a background pattern or a background fill, you're going to want to create that element from the bleed to the bleed. So you're going to want to fill it to the bleed instead of following that artboard there. So that when it gets trimmed, if there's any movement on the printing and cutting, you don't end up with a paper gap when you trim the page. So looking at our first artboard, this is meant to be the side of our postcard that we will fill with artwork, not the side that has our postage and address information. So we only have one set of guides here. These blue guides are indicating the safe area. Again, this is also an 1/8 inch gap between the safe area guide here and the trim. We want to use this to put our most important information, anything that we don't want to, again, get cut off when it gets trimmed if there's any kind of movement during printing and cutting. I want to create a postcard promoting an event today, so I've got two ideas that I've thought up already for a concert in the park. So I'm going to grab my type tool over here, and I am just going to click to make some point type. I'll actually start working on the artboard so we can see. And I'm going to type out my first idea. My first idea is Summer Breeze, which is an all-wind instrument band that covers all wind instruments. Can't type. Let's make this larger too. I'm going to select my type and I'm going to go up here to my size drop down next to my character window panels on the top toolbar, and I'll make it like 21. That covers yacht rock. Alright, so there's our first kind of idea. I'll drag this down to scale it. There we go. And then our second idea that I'll type out here is a string bean quartet. This is a folk 4-string. Oh, can't type. Folk. I keep trying to type folk. 4-string instrument band. Do I want to type band? That covers folk music. Alright, so we've got two ideas here. Feel free to use these if you'd like to, or you can come up with your own idea. You can make a postcard about your summer vacation, whatever you'd like. I also need to type out some additional information. So if I'm going to go with, let's say I'm going to go with Summer Breeze, I need to type out the different pieces and parts of this that I'm going to lay out on my postcard so that our people who receive this card are going to have some context. So we'll go with Summer Breeze is the name of the event. We want to tell people where it is, so let's put Edgewater Beach. For the location, we want to tell people what time it is, so it's going to be 6 p.m. And we want to give people some information. If they want to buy tickets, we can say, for more information, visit, and we'll say Edgewater Concerts. We'll just make up a website. And then we could also add another line of text here if we wanted to for like a date. We'll say this is going to be August 6th, concert in the park. So what is it? It's a concert in the park. All right, so now we've got some information going. Let's start to create some of our own guides so that we can lay out this information on our card. So I'm just going to drag this off of my artboard with the selection tool. And I'm going to switch to the line tool. And now I'm going to just use the line tool to create different sections on my design here for the different text that I need to add, right? So starting over at the bleed, I've got smart guides on. They're going to help you today, so make sure they're on under view smart guides. And I'm just going to click at the bleed, and I'm going to drag, holding down shift to constrain my line all the way across. In the first content area that I'm going to kind of make for myself, I need to add a stroke to that. I'm going to drag to select that line, bring my stroke to the front, and I'm going to choose black for the color. Alright, so we've got a line there. The first sort of area I'm going to define is going to be for my main title. So the title, Summer Breeze. I'm going to draw out another line here. I want my title nice and big on this, so I'm going to leave lots of space, and in between these lines is where I'll put my text. And I also want some other areas for our other kind of secondary information. So I'll draw out a couple more lines here, right? So we can maybe add some text kind of in the space above our title. And then we can add a couple of lines down here just for more information along the bottom edge of this, right? If you want to add like our call to action, which is our website, or some additional text. All right, I'm just going to drag this down a little bit more. I'm going to select all of these lines, and I'm going to make these all have the same spacing between them by going over to Align on the Properties panel, clicking those three dots for more options, and I'm going to choose Distribute Space Vertical, so it's going to distribute that spacing vertical. So now we've got all of our lines here, but we don't want them to be lines, so we're going to drag to select all of them with the selection tool. We're going to go up here to View, drop down to Guides, and I'm going to choose Make Guides, or Command 5. When I do that, our lines are no longer going to be lines that print with our file. They're going to be guides so that we can start to lay out our composition here. So we've got our guides. Let's start to pick some colors next, I think. So I am going to grab the rectangle tool, and I am going to go just kind of above my artboard here, and I'm going to click and drag, holding down shift to draw out a square. Now, for today, I'm going to pick some like bright colors. I do want to precaution you that dark colors can, if you print a lot of black with lighter colors or lighter line work, you have to be a bit careful because there's no white ink. It's kind of like a specialty ink, and CMYK is subtractive, which means as you add color, as you add ink to build up that darker tone, it's gonna get darker. And you'd be printing a lot of like ink, and it takes longer to dry, and it can smear and it can bleed on the paper depending on the paper that you're using. So just be careful if you're using a lot of dark colors. Alright, so I'm going to go over here, I'm going to switch my fill and stroke, and I'm going to start with a light color for my background, a light, sunny, I want to go summery, boats, lake, I'm going to pick a yellow. We'll use that for our background. I'm going to draw out another rectangle, square up here, holding down shift to constrain it, and we'll use a sunny yellow that's a little bit darker now. Maybe going into the oranges, and I'm just double clicking on my fill here to change the colors. Now I'll draw out a color that's for my text. I don't want to use 100% black here. I'm going to double click into my color, and we'll go with something that, let's go with a blue. Let's go with a navy blue. Kind of reminds me of boats and the lake. And then I'll pick an accent color, dragging and holding down shift, double clicking to edit that color. Let's go with a teal. Something that feels like, at least the lake here, anyways, Lake Erie. Anyways, I do want to point something out to you over here. You'll see sometimes when you're picking colors that you've got this little warning symbol. What this means is that your color is out of Gamut. And remember, Gamut is the color space that we're working in. So we're working in the CMYK color space, color gamut. And if you get that out of Gamut warning, it usually gives you, well, it'll give you this little like square here that you can click on to correct your color and bring it back into the range of CMYK. That just makes it so that when you're working and you're looking at your colors, what you're seeing on the screen is what you're going to see when you print. So if you do get that out of Gamut warning, just click on that and Illustrator will correct that color for you as close as it can to get the match that's going to print with our color space. So I'll hit OK and I'll use that teal. And now we need to pick some fonts. So I'm going to hop over to fonts.adobe.com. And this is what it looks like. And we're going to just go to all fonts. And I'm just going to browse some fonts. I want to pick a font for my title first. I want to pick something that fits the look and feel that I want to convey of my title while still being legible. So I'm going to go down here, and for my title, I think I want all caps. So down here, I can select fonts that are only all caps. And let's pick a heavy font. So let's pick something with some weight. Now I can browse through fonts. I like this bungee here, and pick something that I kind of like. I think we used Rift before. Ooh, let's go with this one. I like that it looks kind of friendly and it's got some accents to it with that swoopy R, so I'm gonna pick this. And today, instead of activating it up here, I'm gonna scroll down on the page until we get to the bottom area here. Sometimes for some fonts, you'll get this area down here that'll give you some suggested font pairings. I'm just gonna activate both of these today. Oop, click too much. This is Arts Regular and Vista Sans. It's going to give me options then for my title text and my secondary text, so I can just kind of have two fonts that work well together. Alright, hopping back over, we are now ready to start building our card. We have all of the components. I want to remind everybody that we also have a live chat over here on behance.net/Adobe Live. You can chat live with us and ask questions every day at 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. Haley says, I need to improve on my print design. Thank you for the tips. No problem. Glad I can help, Haley. And we're going to start to lay this out by grabbing the rectangle tool here. I'm going to start with my background. So I'm going to grab my rectangle, and I'm just going to draw because I want my background to fill the bleed. I'm going to click at the bleed at the top left corner, and I'm going to drag down to the bottom right corner so everything snaps. Now I want this to be a lighter color so we can print dark over light. I'm going to use the eyedropper tool to just pull that sunny yellow, drag this in a little bit on the side, and there we go. And let's just start to lay in our type. Oh no, there's one more thing I want to do. I'm going to click on this background so I'm not accidentally selecting it the whole time. I'm going to go to Object, Arrange, Send to Back just to make sure it's behind everything, and then I'm going to go to Object, and I'm going to go to Lock Selection. So I'm locking my background today so I don't accidentally, I can click and drag and move all over this artboard and my background is just going to stay in place. Alright, so I'm going to grab the Type tool and let's start with our title in this kind of space here for our title. I'm going to click, I'm going to type out Summer. I'm going to click to make another area of point text and type out Breeze. There we go. Now I'm going to drag to select both of my point text here. I'm going to go up to the character window and I'm going to type in Arts to get my font. I can drag, holding down Shift to scale this text up. I want it to be really big. Kind of stack it a little bit. There we go. Make it really big, enormously big. Alright, that looks good. And let's grab our color. We want our navy for our text. And let's make a copy. So I'm going to hit Command C and Command F to copy and paste in front. I'm going to use my arrows here. I'm just going to move it up a little bit. I'm just going to tap the arrow and it's going to move it up, and I'm going to tap the arrow to the left and it's going to move it to the left just a little bit. I'm just going to offset these a little bit, and then I'm going to grab my eyedropper and I'll add a yellow to this. So you can see now we've got a little bit of a shadow going on. I can increase that a little bit more by just tapping the arrows, moving it around until I get something that I kind of like there. And I think I want to darken this yellow a little bit. So I'm going to double click in here and I'll darken it a little bit just to get a little bit more contrast between the background and the foreground. Alright, this is fun, but let's make it a little bit more fun. I'm just going to select all of my text, and we can apply a warp to this text. I'm going to go to Command G to make a group so that we can move things around and it's all kind of together with its shadow. But if I go up here to make an envelope distort, I can pick some of these options here. This might be fun for like a sunrise kind of a look, or like a flag. Let's go with wave. I think wave will look nice since we're going for kind of like a water lake feel. I can drag this blend down and up to kind of increase the amount that it's putting that effect onto my text. I don't want it to go so far that I can't read the letters anymore. Just something kind of in the middle looks good. I'm just going to hit OK. Alright, so we've got our title text in here. It's kind of centered in our artboard, right? Now we can start to add the additional text that we have down here. We can start to add this in the spaces kind of like in between, right? So I am just going to drag this up. I am going to change this to our secondary font. So we're going to go with Vista, Sans, and I'm just going to pick a regular. I'm going to make all of our text our navy by using the eyedropper. Now I'm just going to place these kind of like where I kind of want them to be. So when I'm looking at this, I'm thinking about how the text is going to be read. Actually, let's also make this all caps. I'm going to undo that. I'm going to select all of these, and I think I want everything to be in all caps. So I'm going to go over here to my character options, click on those 3 dots, and click on this 2 capital T's, and it's going to capitalize everything for me. Alright, so now I'm going to drag these down, and like I was saying, I'm thinking about how this text reads. So I want it to read clearly to the viewer. So they're going to read they're going to read, okay, Summer Breeze, it's August 6th, it's a concert in the park, it's at Edgewater Beach. Like, that's the order that I want people to read things in. You kind of want to think about how you place your composition so that when somebody's looking at it, it's very, very clear, like, they're reading it and they're understanding, like, what the event is, what it's about, where it's at, the date, all that kind of stuff. Alright, so I'm going to grab the corner here, and holding down Shift, I'm just going to scale this text so it kind of spans the length of my bottom text here. There we go. We've got our text at the top, spanning the text at the top, fitting into those guides that we made. And for these last 2 pieces of text, I actually want these to have a little bit more emphasis. I really want to emphasize the time and our call to action. So I'm going to create some design elements here. I'm going to go over to my shape tools, and I'm going to grab the ellipse. I'm just going to draw out a little like circle up here, kind of like a sun, kind of filling that negative space that I have here. And we'll change it to our teal. I'm actually going to select my text, and I'm going to change those to teal as well. Just clicking on them and then switching to the eyedropper and clicking that fill color. Alright, so we've got this cool little circle. I'll also go down here and I'll add something down here as well to kind of match. We've got this up here. It's kind of reminding me of a sun. So we'll add some water down here. Dragging, this time I want the water to print off the edges, so I'll extend to the bleed. And I'll just add a couple more rectangles here just to kind of show, like, these gaps kind of act as the highlight in my water. So I'm not being very, like, literal. I'm not drawing waves. I'm just kind of giving the idea of water here, right? I'm just using simple shapes to tell the story, and just kind of indicating that. All right. So this is looking good. We've got a nice area down here that we can put our call to action, as well as an area up here that we can put something else that we want to emphasize. Let's grab our 6 p.m. and you'll notice that it is behind our shape. So in order to fix that, we need to go to Object, Arrange, and Bring to Front. There we go. Now we can see it. Let's grab a lighter color so it stands out. Let's make the style of this text bold because we really want to make it stand out as a piece of important information. And we'll scale it up. I can go over here to next to my font styles. I have the font size. I'm just going to increase it. There we go. 6 p.m. is the time. Just kind of move it into place. And then for our last call to action, we'll put it over the water. Again, I need to go to Object, Object, Arrange, Bring to Front. And we'll move it over here. We'll scale it down, grabbing the corner and holding down Shift, so that it fits inside of our guides for our safe zone. Don't forget that we want to keep everything that is important and we need people to read inside of that safe zone there. Alright, so this is looking really, really good. We could, if you wanted extra credit, you can design the information side of the card as well. All of these blue items are guides, so again, they won't print in your file. These boxes over here are just areas you shouldn't print on. These are just kind of areas for the Postal Service to use for information. You don't really want to print over the stamp area or the mailing address or the barcode, just because they'll usually print information on there. But if you wanted some extra credit, you could draw in some lines on this side for like a message area or something like that. Just kind of build out a nice template. But we're going to look at different ways that you can export this now. So you're ready to share this. Let's say you want to share this with a printer. So when you're sharing with a printer, you're probably going to be sending them a PDF. So to save a PDF, we're going to go to Save, File, Save As. That's going to bring up the Save As dialog. We're going to go to the desktop here. I'm going to change to a PDF from the drop down under Format, and when I hit Save, it's going to pull up the PDF dialog box. I'm going to switch from the default PDF preset to high quality print, because we're sending it to a printer, we want it to be high quality. And then the one thing that I'm going to change in these settings is I'm going to make sure that I'm using my document bleed. When I do that, it's going to add that bleed, so it prints with the bleed, to our file. But we also need to tell the printer where we want the file trimmed, because it's going to make our file, instead of being the A4 size, 4 by 6 inches, it'll be 4 1/4 by 6 1/4 with that additional bleed. So adding a trim, I'll show you in a second. I'm going to save it out. If we open up our PDF, it's doing its thing, opening up. You're going to see that there's these little lines in here, and that shows the printer, this is where I want to cut that page. So that's just how you would send a file to a printer. It prints on both of our pages here, our back that we didn't end up finishing. If you wanted to save out a file for, as like a raster format, and a PNG or a JPEG for print, you can go to File, Export, and Export As this time. And now I can go here, I can choose PNG. You're going to want to make sure that you check Use Artboards, so that we're using the artboards in our file, so that nothing sort of outside of the artboard is saving out with our file or anything like that. And we'll just hit OK. And now this time, it gives you an option to choose your resolution. By default, you're going to have 72 PPI, that's for screen. If you wanted to save out for print, you can change to high. Now, there is something important that I want to note here. Your image, when you export out, so we'll export out here. When you export out your image and you change the resolution to 300 PPI, I don't know why my file isn't opening. There we go. It will look larger, but it's not. It is and it isn't. So it will look larger because it's displaying at 72 PPI. But if you were to take this image into Photoshop and you were to change the resolution to 300, it would be A4 again. So it's just displaying it at 72. It did export out at 300 dpi. It's just a kind of like a thing that you just kind of. It's kind of how resolution works. It's relying on like the resolution is changing the way that the pixel dimensions when it's displayed at 72, if that makes sense. So it's just displaying larger. It is 300 dpi. I know that will be a question. But if we're exporting out for our Discord, we're just going to want to use export for screens. That's going to save out our files to our desktop, both of them. If you wanted to save out a file with the bleed and the guides that you made, save out a screenshot by going to Command Shift and 4. If you're on a Mac, you can just take a screenshot, or if you're on a PC, I believe it is Shift and Windows and S to open the snipping tool. If you save out a PDF and you uploaded a PDF to the Discord, it won't give you a preview, so you just want to take a screenshot if you wanted to share how your file was set up in Illustrator, or you can just save, like I said, with the export for screens for our Discord. Alright, so Our Discord, speaking of, you can find the link below in the description of this video for our Discord. You can upload your work here, check out what everybody else is working on. We've got a couple of submissions from Allison for the chalkboard challenge. You can just drag your file into here and hit enter to share. Boop. And I'll hit enter, and now it's uploaded to our Discord. Yay! Alright, so thank you all for joining me today for an Illustrator Foundations challenge. We went over some printing best practices using guides and to lay out our composition using primary and secondary text, and then exporting for different file formats for print or for screens. We're live every day at 11:30 a.m. Pacific Time at behance.net/Adobe Live. And stay tuned on Behance for more live content. Bye, everyone!